Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Sorry for my hair. Just had a nice supper after that Zoom meeting, so now I'm ready to go. And we were just at the middle of the newsletter. I was on the just at the meat of it. It's called the spiritual mixing of seed. That's the heading. So I'm gonna get into that right away. In the previous videos, I just went through the sections before this, but this is really the meat of the newsletter. So I'm just gonna keep this on to cover my hair, my bad hair day. Okay. I do not have permission to copy this chapter from Nehemiah Gordon's book, Shattering the Conspiracy of Silence. I highly recommend you all read this book. The world is going into labor pains, and you are being silenced by those spreading the mixed message in conspiracy teachings. Satan does not want people to know what he already knows. Time is up. So send them confusion and keep the people from hearing the truth. Keep the people from hearing the message of repentance, which could save those who actually do repent. Preoccupy the people with rabbit holes for them to go down, and when they come up, send them down another one. Just keep them from reading their Bibles. Oh, I didn't see it that way. I wanted to quote to you chapter 5 of Shattering the Conspiracy of Silence, which you can listen to at this teaching about this section I'm talking to you about. So I'm just going to open those links and just see what they look like. In this chapter, Nehemiah talks about Melchizedek and the king of Sodom blessing Abraham. So I'm going to look at that. Take a quick look at those links. Okay, so it's a book, and yeah, you can order it. Obviously not now, it's Shabbat. But it's a conspiracy of silence surrounding the priestly blessing. Wow. So there's a 3-line blessing in number 6. And it's interesting to read that in the Septuagint as well, but that's another topic. So some minor differences in there, but overall it is a very good blessing to pray. They colluded to keep a key secret. Wow. That is something quite intriguing. Okay, so that's that. And then there's a YouTube video that's opening up at the same time as I'm doing a YouTube stream.
Yeah, it's great to be back here at El Shaddai. And I'm going to be talking to you today about some information
on the priestly blessing. So I'll put that in my watch later. That's quite intriguing just to see what he has to say about that. And why would they keep that a secret? That doesn't make sense to me for them to do that, but you never know. So, okay, so that's the link. In this chapter, Nehemiah talks about Melchizedek, as I said, and it says Genesis 14, 19. Okay, I'll read that. Let me read that. It's pretty interesting to read. So Genesis. I don't have stuff in my food on my face. I just ate. So where is this again? Melchizedek. 14:19. Okay, Genesis 14. And all right, let's look at that again. Sorry, it's taking a while to load. Okay, there it is. Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth loaves and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High Elohim. Wow. So he brought, what did he bring? Bread and wine. Those are interesting symbols. Verse 19, and he blessed Abram, and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High Elohim, who made heaven and earth. Okay, so in the Septuagint says, who made heaven and earth, and the Masoretic says, possessor of. Verse 20, and blessed be the Most High Elohim, who delivered your enemies into your power, and Abram gave him the tithe of all. Okay, so that's that. Continuing on. But when Abraham replied to the king of Sodom, he did not reply by saying the Most High God. Abraham said something different. Okay, what did he say? Verse 22. It says here, Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I will stretch out my hand to Jehovah, the Most High Elohim, who made the heaven and earth, that I will not take from all your goods from a string to a shoe latchet, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. Okay? So that's what he said. Abraham stated exactly who this Most High Elohim was, because the Sodomites also believed in a Most High Elohim, and his name was Baal. Abraham was making a clear and distinct difference. Actually, today's message on Zoom was about this. Very interesting how it ties in. Well, not interesting, but you can see how Jehovah just puts things together at a specific time for his purpose. It's amazing. Really, really grateful for that. The timeliness and, giving meat in due season. All right. Abraham already knew who Melchizedek believed in. Abraham made sure the king of Sodom knew he was speaking about Jehovah and not Baal. Okay. That's cool. Okay, let me just read that again in 22. Did he actually use his name? I will stretch my hand to Jehovah. Wow, yeah, he did say that. Okay, that just went over my head. Because you don't really think about it when you read the name so many times. You're thinking, wait, he actually used the name. That was big. He made his point clear. Excuse me. Everyone may think they are worshiping the true Elohim, but they are not. We have another example 800 years after Abraham, when King David wins a battle and names the place after a flash god. Wait, a flash god? Okay, I'm not sure what that means. 2 Samuel 5:19. Okay, I guess I'll read that too. I mean, these are pretty. This actually sort of have to read these ones. Excuse me, I ate a lot. 2 Samuel 5. It's a lot of food. Okay, but it says to bless his name after you've eaten and are full. So bless his name. Yeah, bless his name. It's important to keep that in mind when you're satisfied where that came from. So, okay, going back to it now, 5:19. I'm reading the 3 verses here. And David inquired of Jehovah, saying, shall I go up against the Philistines, and will you deliver them into my hands? And Jehovah said to David, go up, for I will surely deliver the Philistines into your hands. And David came from upper breaches, also known as Baal Perazim, okay, and smote the Philistines there. And David said, Jehovah has destroyed the hostile Philistines before me, as water is dispersed. Therefore, the name of that place was called Over Breaches, or Baal Perazim. Oh, whoa. Okay, he named it that? Why would he name it that? Okay, and then what's the next line? The 21. Am I reading the 21? Okay. 21. And they leave there their Elohims, or their gods. And David and his men with him took them. What? Why would they take them? Okay. The English does not translate this as it is written in the Hebrew. David attacked the Philistines at Baal Perazim. Actually, that's what I said, but in the, I guess, the text that's used here, it says, I guess it didn't say that in the English. Perazim is likened to the flash flooding that came suddenly, or that comes suddenly after a rain. Excuse me. David was saying that his victory was like a flash flood over the Philistines. Jehovah has parats broken forth, but instead of saying Jehovah or El or Adonai, David says that Baal Perazim. David credited the chief Canaanite god with the victory. He did? Why? Okay, David was a man after Jehovah's own heart. Excuse me. He was anointed by Samuel, or Shmuel, and filled with the spirit of Jehovah. And yet, even so, David still gave credit to the Baal of the Canaanites. 1 Samuel 19, 13. Okay, let's look at that. These are intriguing scriptures. 1 Samuel 19. I completely overlooked this. Sometimes you read the narrative and you're just thinking about, okay, what's happening? You don't think of all these little details. So 1 Samuel 19 and verse 13, when we get there. You must understand what is going on here. Okay, what's going on? Let's look at that once it loads. Okay. There's various, excuse me, translations. It says, Michal took the teraphim, laid it in the bed, put a pillow of goat's hair at the head, and covered it with the clothes. Michal put a statue in his bed, or her bed, or his bed, David. She put goat hair on its head and dressed it in some of David's clothes. What is going on? Michal took the household god, put clothes on it, and put goat's hair on its head. Then she put the statue in the bed. Then she took the household idol, laid it on the bed, put a pillow made of goat's hair at its head, and put a cover up over it. So let's look at the Septuagint. What does that say? From verse 13. Let's look at that. This is a Masoretic. Michal took an image and laid it in the bed, put a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster, and covered it with a cloth. Okay. Septuagint says, and Michal, Melchol, took images and laid them on the bed, and she put the liver of a goat by his head. Oh man, that's really gross. And covered them with clothes. That tells you a lot more in the Septuagint. What is going on? So a pillow is actually the liver of a goat. That sounds like witchcraft to me. Like you're feeding it. Oh man, okay, let's see where he's going with this. In David's house was this idol. David's wife, Michal, took the idol and laid it in the bed, pretending it was David. Why did David have this idol in his house? Notice it was not just a statue of anyone. It was a teraphim, the exact same teraphim that Rachel stole from Laban in Genesis 31:34. We also have David naming one of his sons after Baal, Beeliada as Baal Yada, and means Baal knows. Okay, I'm going to look at Genesis 31:34 and just see how it reads in the Septuagint, because I know about this, but I just don't know how it reads, because I've read it so many times in the Masoretic that I just wonder what it says. It gives you, I didn't know it said disturbing, but anyway, it's what it says, 31:34. It says here, verse 34, and Rachel took the idol and cast them among the camels' packs and sat upon them. So they are idols. Excuse me. All right, so that's pretty plain and simple. Let me just see if the stream's going. Yeah, okay. A little too close to the camera. All right. David's house. Okay, right. So we have David naming one of his daughters after Baal. Sadly, I didn't really realize that. So Elishama, this is 1 Chronicles 14. Let's just do my fact checking. See what the Septuagint says if he in fact did name her after Baal. First Chronicles 14. Excuse me. Whew. Yeah. First Chronicles 14. Well, you know what? I didn't want to go out for a jog, so I thought let's read, not jog, but I didn't want to go for a walk, and thought it's better to probably read and digest. First Chronicles 14:7. Okay, so these are children of David: Elishama and Eliade and Eliphalet. Oh, actually, no, in the Septuagint, she's Eliade. So they changed it in the Masoretic too. What in the world? Okay, let's look at the other names of his kids, just to see if there's one of them named after some pagan or some god, false god. Excuse me. David took more wives at Jerusalem. There were born to David more sons and daughters. These are the names of those that were born to him in Jerusalem: Sama'a or Shamua, Sobab or Shobab, Nathan, and Solomon, Shlomo, and Ba'ar. So maybe that might be a pagan name. I don't know, but Ba'ar is close. Elisa, Elishua, and Eliphalet, and Nageth, and Naphath, and Japhi, and Elishama, and Eliade. So in the Masoretic, it says her name is Liada, but in the Septuagint, her name is Eliade. So it tells you that she's actually not named after Baal. And Eliphalet. So that's good. I mean, you know what? I wasn't going to fact check this, but it's good. I'm happy I did. So we also have Saul naming. Where's that come from? Where's that coming from? It's a loud thing. I'm going to get copyright strikes. Okay. Let's open the. Let's see. Did I get a copyright strike? No. Okay. I don't want to get a copyright strike for that. It just says sunset's an hour from now. That's what it's saying. Okay. You know, let's turn that off because I want to get a copyright strike. And I just want to know when sunset, not when it's here, but, once it's long gone. So we have Saul naming one of his children after Baal also. Okay, let's look at that in both the Masoretic and the Septuagint. Okay, 2 Samuel 2. So we have confirmation David did not name his daughter after, but maybe Baar could be, possibly. Baar could be. I don't know where you got Baar from, so you know what? Maybe still. So let's look at Saul, Shaul, 2 Samuel 2, and that's verse 10. Ishbosheth, Shaul's son, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and reigned 2 years, but the house of Judah followed David. Okay, so his name was Ishbosheth. Ishbosheth is translated as man of shame, but when we read in 1 Chronicles what Saul really called him, the truth comes out. Okay, so in the Septuagint, his name is, it's actually not Ishbosheth. I mean, it is. It says Ishbosheth, in Greek, Jeboste. So it says Ishbosheth, but in Greek, Jeboste. So maybe not. It's hard to say, but I'm going to go with the Ishbosheth because that's the first name it gives. First Chronicles 8. And verse 33, we're going to read what that says, what he actually called them. That's going to be, this really, I really like this this part of the newsletter. Really eye-opening. First Chronicles 8. A lot of things that you just gloss over, but really good. Okay, so, and Ner begat Kish, and Kish begat Shaul, and Shaul begat Jonathan, and Malchishua, and Abinadab, and Eshbaal. Ooh, okay. Eshbaal means man of Baal. Okay, let's look at the Septuagint. It says, what did he name him there? What line is that? 33. Begot Jonathan, Melchishua, and Aminadab, and Asabal. So it's pretty close. I'm going to say, it says here, the son of Jonathan was Meri Baal, and Meri Baal begot Micha. So yeah, there is definitely at least one Baal in their line. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think in Hebrew culture, Jewish culture, they call their husband Baal, which means Lord. But that also, I mean, it bothers me that why are we using Baal? Why not Adonai? Isn't that the better word? Okay. We are seeing a pattern here in the book of Samuel as he changes the name of Baal to Boshet, which means shame. We also have this same thing in the story of Gideon. After he destroyed the altar of Baal, being changed in Samuel from Yerubbaal, which means let Baal strive, to Yerubeshet, which means let shame strive. What is going on here? Are these greats of the What are these greats of the Bible doing? Are they worshiping Baal or Jehovah? What they did was much more subtle and far more insidious. They were doing the very same thing I have been accusing some of you of doing. They were mixing the true worship of Jehovah with the false worship of Canaanite gods. And you are mixing the true worship of Jehovah with the false teaching of the conspiracy teachings. Oh, I didn't see it that way. Okay, let's see. Excuse me. Right, so Leviticus 19:19. These are really good scriptures. I'm not going to skip these ones unless they seem kind of trivial, but this seems like a serious situation going on here. Some serious implications. You shall not let your cattle gender with one of a different kind. You shall not sow your vineyard with diverse seed, and you shall not put upon yourself a mingled garment woven of two materials. Yeah. That's a good principle. David, Saul, Gideon, and some of you today are engaging in the spiritual mixing of seed. Let me just look at that one more time. Mingled. Yeah, well, in the Septuagint it says garment woven of two materials. Okay, which is a lot more clear. Okay, just checking. David, Saul, and Gideon were calling Jehovah Baal and thinking it was equal. You today think you are being watchmen on the wall by spreading the lies about everything we have talked about above. Everything we've talked about above. Maybe it's just about everything we have talked about from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And many of you still do not get it. Everything, spreading lies about everything we have talked about above the tree of knowledge. Wait, from the tree of knowledge. Spreading the lies about everything we have talked about from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay, so we're spreading lies about stuff from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and many of you still do not get it. Okay. So it's just having a bit of trouble processing that. 700 years after David, the Israelites were still mixing Jehovah with Baal. Hosea 2:16. Hosea 2:16. All right, it says here, Hosea 2:16. And it shall come to pass in that day, says Jehovah, that she shall call me my husband, and shall no longer call me Baalim. Whoa. Yeah, it does say that. Jehovah tells us in the next verse that this will one day be corrected. And I will take away the names of Baalim out of her mouth. and their names shall be remembered no more at all. Wow, that is. Well, okay. Yeah, in the Masoretic it says, they shall no more be remembered by their name. But I like the ways of the Septuagint says. It says, their name shall be remembered no more at all. Which means, well, in the Masoretic I read it as, you will remember them by that name, so they'll still be remembered. Whereas the Septuagint's like, no, remember that name? It's like they never existed, basically. Actually, I like that better. I'd rather they didn't exist. So, okay. Today, many of you are mixing the Torah with the conspiracy teachings of the day. You have created an unholy hybrid religion, which you worship and cannot stay away from. Ancient Israel mixed the truth with the pagan when they worshipped on the high places and under every leafy tree. They mixed the truth. Okay, right. Second Kings 17:9. Okay, let's. It's actually pretty fun to look at these. So I'm gonna Second Kings 17:9 to 11. Okay, the Second Kings 17. I might need to turn the light on. It's getting dark. Second Kings 17:9 to 11. All right. And in those of the children of Israel, as many as secretly practiced customs, not as they should have done, against Jehovah their Elohim. Oh man. So they did that secretly, right? And they built for themselves high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fortified city. And they made for themselves pillars and groves on every high hill and under every shady tree, and burned incense there on all high places, as the nations did whom Jehovah removed from before them, and dealt with familiar spirits. And they carved images to provoke Jehovah to anger. Wow. Oh boy. Let me just take a sip. Okay, there's no way that went over my head, because actually in the Masoretic, it says everything that I read, but it just says, this is what it says, and worked wicked things. That's what it says. Worked. That could mean so many things. That can mean a lot of different things. It could just mean, maybe they did a sin, or they did, maybe they cheated on their test. You know what I mean? Like, it's something minor, something wicked. They did something wicked. The Septuagint says they dealt with familiar spirits. That's outright witchcraft. That's demonology. That is conjuring spirits. That is like the like Ouija board, but even worse than that. Like, they're actually, when they consult a medium, that's what they were doing. I mean, that makes sense, because King Saul went to a medium, and the witch of Endor, I think, and then she asked for Samuel, and she was about to do it, but he came up even before she was able to do it. But anyway, the point is, it says that they were dealing with familiar spirits. That is so. Oh, okay. I'm so glad I looked it up. I should write that down in my file here. That's a big difference. I'm gonna write that down. That is a difference, notable difference. So I'm gonna write that down. It says here, 2 Kings 17. It's a difference that needs to be remembered. I'm not gonna let that just slip between the cracks. That has to be remembered and recorded for people's benefit, to know, what it actually says. And it would make sense if I was Israel, if I was of the tribe of Israel, and my scripture said this, human nature would say, yeah, let's change that. That makes us look really bad. We dealt with familiar spirits. No, let's just put we did wickedly. We were bad, but it's forgivable. It's forgivable. It's not that bad. We didn't deal in witchcraft or anything. It's not like we dabbled in witchcraft, but no, they did. says there, and dealt with familiar spirits. You can read it in the Septuagint. Okay. Yikes. What was once a Canaanite worship practice. You know what? There's also that verse about the that disturbing one about the goat liver. Where is that? 1 Samuel 19. I'm gonna write that too. That's actually 4th Kings, because there is no book of Samuel in the Septuagint. It's just one big Kings. So 1 Samuel is actually 1st Kings. So let me put that there too. 1st Kings 19. Sorry to use the time to do this, but if I don't do it now, I never will. Goat's liver. Yeah. Yikes. Okay, that's pretty graphic, but anyway, that's what it says. All right. So where am I now? Lost my spot. Okay. What was once a Canaanite worship practice became a new way to worship Jehovah. Instead of telling people about the curses that Jehovah has been sending, instead of telling people about the curses that Jehovah has been sending, okay, it's a comma there. Many of you are promoting this or that conspiracy teaching and becoming laughing stocks and not his watchmen. Do not tell me you are doing this for Jehovah. You are not. You are sinning. Okay, Judges 17. I know this can be a controversial topic, actually. I can see people defending their positions because, there's a lot of lies in the media, but let's see where he's going with this. I still think, our time is better spent focusing on the scriptures, not on rabbit holes. Although it's good to be informed, but maybe not dive into a rabbit hole and get lost and never come out. So, what is this? Judges 17 and verses 3 to 6. Okay. And he restored the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. And his mother said, I had wholly consecrated the money to Jehovah out of my hand for my son, to make a graven and a molten image. And now I will restore it to you. Verse 4. Okay, we're reading up to verse 6. Okay, it's quite long. But he returned the silver to his mother, and his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave them to a silversmith. And he made it a graven and a molten image, and it was in the house of Micah. And the house of Micah was to him the house of Elohim. And he made an ephod and teraphim, and he consecrated one of his sons, and he became to him a priest. And in those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Okay, who is this guy? It was Micah. Okay, so Micah did this. Okay, so let's continue on. It does not matter whether or not you dedicate your conspiracy studies to Jehovah. You have created another idol, and you are not obeying Jehovah. Deuteronomy 12, 1 to 5. Okay, talking about destroying high places and things like that. So, you're not to mix the truth of Torah with the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. You shall not worship Jehovah like this. Solomon and the Israelites did not do so. Did not do as Jehovah said. And they continued to mix the truth with the worship of Baal and think nothing of it. 1 Kings 3, verse 3. And 2 Kings 12, verse 3. Yeah, it's talking about they're still doing the high places there. It was so subtle and so easy to just ignore it. At the end of Solomon's life, he was worshiping Molech and the other Baals. Okay, let's look this up. I know about this, but I just want to see how the Septuagint words it, to see just maybe it gets even worse than what originally it was saying, because it seems at the rate that we're looking at things, it's a lot worse than I originally had believed, with the goat liver and the other one, the familiar spirits thing. Like, I didn't know that was so rampant. And what's happening even now, like that's still happening in places like the UK. There's a lot of people practicing pagan religions, like openly. It's not even a secret. Like people have societies of doing that, and they meet in groups and all these. Oh, anyway. First Kings 11:4. And it came to pass in the time of the old age of Solomon that his heart was not perfect with Jehovah's Elohim, as was the heart of David his father. And to Ashtaroth, the abomination of the Zidonians. And Solomon, what? Okay. And Solomon did that which was evil in the sight of Jehovah. He went not after Jehovah as David his father. Then Solomon built a high place to Chamos, the idol of Moab, and to their king, the idol of the children of Ammon. And thus he acted towards all his strange wives, who burnt incense and sacrificed to their idols. And Jehovah was angry with Solomon because he turned away his heart from Jehovah, Elohim of Israel, who had appeared twice to him. Oh man, and that's where he says, I will split the kingdom out of your hand. Man, that's a big... Okay, I'm going to read this, verse 14. I know it's not part of it, but because in the Masoretic it says, Jehovah stirred up an adversary to Solomon, Hadad the Edomite, he was of the king's seed in Edom. But in the Masoretic, or the Septuagint says, and Jehovah raised up an enemy to Solomon, Hadad Adair the Edomite, and Hezron, son of Eliade, who dwelt in Ramah, and Adadazer, king of Zobah, his master, and men gathered to him, and he was head of the conspiracy, and he seized on Damascus, and they were adversaries to Israel all the days of Solomon, and Hadad, the Edomite, was of the seed royal in Edom. So there's a lot more information. It's saying that it was not just one guy. He made a lot of people come up against him. That's how mad he was. Yeah. Oh, Hadad I've heard of Hadad. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I've heard of Hadad. Anyway, let's keep going. Where am I now? It was so subtle. Okay. Yeah. Where am I now? I just read this. Okay. When Jeroboam took over the 10 northern tribes, they continued in their mixing of the truth with Baal worship. And they did so until they were destroyed in 723 BC by the Assyrians. In Hezekiah's day, he destroyed all the high places. What Nehemiah Gordon points out is striking. When Rabshakeh comes to Jerusalem, he knows about these high places being destroyed. Why would he know such a thing? He knew because many of those who worshipped at the high places had told him, and they were upset with Hezekiah for doing that and wanted him out. To them, Hezekiah would be like President Trump to the Democrats today. These people who worshipped at the high places hated Hezekiah for destroying their places of worship. Many of you may not like me for telling you to stop with the mixing of Torah with conspiracy teachings. It does not change the truth. After Hezekiah died, the mixing of Jehovah worship with the high places came back big time. And it was King Josiah who then tackled the problem once again. And it says here, 2 Kings 23, 4 to 15, so I don't think I need to read that. It's quite lengthy. I just, that's what it says. He did had to deal with it again. Yeah, I don't have time to go through the whole thing, but I do trust. That's what happened. I mean, I don't know. I guess I could scan through it. 2 Kings 23:15. Let's just take a quick look. I'm not gonna read it all, but just make sure there's no big difference. At least if there's a big difference, I'll read it. 2 Kings 23. Just look for any big differences. Not really going to read the whole thing, but 4 to 15. So I'll just look through there, starting at verse 4. King commanded Hilkiah, yeah. Bring out the temple of Jehovah, all the vessels are made for Baal, for the grove close to heaven, and burn them. Okay, so they had to burn them. And take the ashes of them to Bethel. He burned the idolat. Wait, what? He burned the priests? Okay, well, in the Septuagint says he burned the priests, whom the kings of Judah had appointed, and they burned incense in the high places in the cities of Judah, and the places round about Jerusalem, and them that burned incense to Baal, and to the sun, and to the moon, and to Mazaroth, and to all the host of heaven. So he didn't just put down these priests and the people who burned incense, he burned them. He burned them. Okay? That's the big difference in the Septuagint there. He carried out the grove from the house of Jehovah. So the brook of Kidron, he burned it at the brook of Kidron, okay? Reduced it to powder, it says the same thing. And he cast its powder in the sepulchres of the sons of the people. Okay? So far so good, except for the burning part. He pulled down the house of the Sodomites that were by the house of Jehovah, where the women wove tents for the grove. He brought up all the priests from the cities of Judah and defiled the high places where the priests burned incense. From Ebal even to Beersheba, he pulled down the house of the gates and went by the door. Okay. Only the priests of the high places went not up to the altar. They did, for they only ate leavened bread in the midst. Okay, verse 9 is a big difference. Okay, here. The Masoretic says the priests of the high places did not come up to the altar of Jehovah in Jerusalem, but they did eat of the unleavened bread among their brethren. So it says they ate unleavened bread, okay? Matzo, basically. This is what it says in Septuagint. Only the priests of the high places went not up to the altar of Jehovah in Jerusalem, for they only ate leavened bread in the midst of their brethren. They were not eating unleavened bread, they're eating leavened bread. That's like the difference when Satan said, you shall not die. It's like if Satan said, you will die. You know what I mean? Like that is a big difference to me, in my opinion. Unleavened, when it's actually saying leavened. Okay. Just because we know the symbolism of leavening, which is sin, which makes sense that these priests of the high places would eat sinful bread. Okay. Or the leavened version. He defiled Tapheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom. Okay. That constructed for a man to cause his son or his daughter to pass through the fire to Molech. Okay. He bound the horses which the king of Judah had given to the son in the entrance of the house of Jehovah by the treasury of Nathan the king's eunuch in the suburbs, and he burned the chariot of the sun with fire. Okay, burning a lot of things here. The altars that were on the roof of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of Jehovah, did the king pull down. So he pulled down these altars and forcibly removed from there and cast into the brook of Kidron. So far, I think that's matching up. Okay. The king defiled the house that was before Jerusalem on the right hand of Mosdath, which Solomon, king of Israel, built to Ashtaroth. the abomination of the Zidonians, and to Chemosh, the abomination of the Moab, and to Molech. Wow, there's so many. There's three. I mean, it's not bad enough there's one, there's three. He broke in pieces the pillars and utterly destroyed the groves and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, actually it says, also the high altar in Bethel, which Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, had made, okay, even the high altar he tore down and broke in pieces the stones of it, and reduced it to powder and burned the grove. Okay, so it's pretty much almost the same. The big differences here are where he burned the priests and just put them down. He burned them, and he burned those who burned incense. And he also, the priests, those priests of Baal, priests of the high places, they ate leavened bread, not unleavened bread. So that's the differences there. Let me just make sure the stream is going. Okay, great. So, wow, you can read more. You can read in verse 9 how the priests still resisted him. They still wanted to keep mixing the truth with lies they had developed. Keep looking for those who are willing to step out and work with me to tear down these altars to the high places. Willing to step out and work with me to tear down these altars. Okay, these Asheroth and conspiracy teachings that lead the people away from Jehovah. I keep praying for Jehovah to send more men who will teach you truths and not mix them with Satan's lies. I keep watching for the evidence by their actions of those who claim to follow Jehovah and actually do, but still many mixing the tree of knowledge of good and evil with the tree of life. We read in Daniel about these last days we are now in. Daniel 12:4. Okay, seal up the book, right? That's straightforward. The word for knowledge is, for knowledge shall be increased, dahath, cunning. So I won't read the full thing. But to discern, there's a lot of words there. When I read this explanation of the word da'ath and it says cunning, I immediately think of Satan. Genesis 3:1. Let's just see the word that is used. I know some translations say subtle. The serpent was more subtle or more cunning. The Septuagint, I don't think it says that. Not that he's not cunning or subtle, but it uses a different in a few seconds. So he's quoting Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 to 7. I'll just read verse 1 because that's what we're focusing on. Now the serpent was the most crafty than all of the brutes on the earth. So then all the animals on the earth, the serpent was the most crafty. Okay, so that's the word it uses there. Okay. And then it says Genesis 2:16. The lie he told Eve, 16 and 17. Right. Let me now. Genesis 2:16. That's a command that pretty much memorized. Let me now share with you two commentaries on Genesis 3. The devil asserted that by taking of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, human eyes would be opened, implying wisdom and enlightenment. Okay, let me get a light because it's getting dark. I'm going to get a light. Anything else, but it's too late now. And just see if the lighting isn't too bad there. That's not too bad. Okay, it's kind of calming. The devil asserted that by taking of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, human eyes would be opened, implying wisdom and enlightenment to allow a person to know good and evil as Elohim does. Immediately, Satan places the emphasis on knowing, but it is contrasted with living eternally. Excuse me. Satan proposes that mankind should be like Elohim in taking to himself the knowledge, the definition of what is right and wrong, asserting that this is a good thing. In contrast, the tree of life represents a way of living in which the meaning of good and evil already exists. And eternal life involves submitting through the Holy Spirit to that definition and the sovereign who is its source, which the meaning of good and evil already exists. Okay. That's interesting. Likewise, the Gnostics are those who know, who pursue mystical knowledge that they believe holds the key to eternal life through advancing beyond the physical and into the spiritual realm. Gnostics believed the key to eternal life was contained in right interpretation, knowledge of those esoteric sayings. The book of Revelation expounds on the tree of life in two places. To him who overcomes, I will give to eat from the tree of life, which is in the middle of the paradise of Elohim. Revelation 2:7. It's going to get more comfortable here. And what's the next one? Blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into New Jerusalem. Revelation 22, verse 14. The tree of life, then, is associated with a way of life, one that requires overcoming, growth against a standard of righteousness, and doing God's commandments, or Elohim's commandments. The only ones who are allowed to partake of the tree of life are those who have changed themselves with Elohim's help by his Spirit to begin living in the same manner as he does. To those who submit to his standard of righteousness, then, he grants life that is both endless and of the same quality that he enjoys. Satan, though, in addition to casting doubt on what God, Elohim, plainly says, and implying that Elohim is unfair by withholding good things, offers a shortcut. He says, you do not need to follow Elohim's way, for it is obviously unfair and far too stringent. You can follow your own way. You can take advantage, or you can take knowledge to yourself of what is good and what is evil. You can be just like Elohim, determining what is right and wrong. Adam and Eve took the bait, and ever since, man has rejected Elohim's standard of righteousness in favor of his own. This heresy is easily seen in the antinomianism, literally against law, of the Gnostics, who may not have been against every law, but were certainly against any law that impinged, or is that infringed, upon their standard of conduct. Thus, the ascetic Gnostics, who grieved the Christians in Colossae, held to man-made regulations of do not touch, do not taste, do not handle. Colossians 2:20-21, while rejecting the command to rejoice with food and drink during the Elohim-ordained festivals. Similarly, mainstream Christianity will rightly use portions of Leviticus and Deuteronomy to point out Elohim's abhorrence of abortion and homosexuality, but will claim that the same law is done away when it comes to Shabbat and holy days. They have taken to themselves the knowledge of what is good and what is evil, establishing their own standard of righteousness. A core issue of the Bible is whether we submit to Elohim's governance or try to form a government based on our own perception of what is good or what works. Elohim's way results in eternal life, but it comes with the obligation to submit ourselves to Him. It requires keeping all of His commandments and overcoming our human weaknesses that do not rise to that standard. Satan, conversely, seeks to persuade us to do our own thing and to usurp Elohim's prerogative in defining right living. He encourages us to be enlightened, to have our eyes opened by doubting Elohim and rejecting his way. Daniel 12:4. The phrase to and fro is not to be limited to people literally going from one place to another. Well, it does also mean that the words in Hebrew indicate something that is happening entirely within a person's mind. The minds of people are casting back and forth as though they are in the midst of a puzzle, a mystery, an enigma that they cannot figure out, or they are all stressed and their minds are flashing back and forth because of all that is burdening them. John Reidenbach. Okay. So, don't want to do that. Okay. Sevening ourselves. Okay, there's a different heading. My wires are getting tangled. Just gonna see how the stream is going. Make sure it's still running. Okay. Let's put this behind there. This is a repost from a newsletter last year. Okay. I guess I'll go over. I'll just scan it a bit. In our article 2 weeks ago, we talked about the Feast of Weeks and the Feast of Oaths, and we talked about the blood covenant that Israel agreed to at Mount Sinai. We also explained that when we confess the name, as it says in Romans 10:9, that we are in fact confessing to having broken this covenant and our willingness to return to keeping it and obeying it. Because if you confess with your mouth that Yeshua is Adonai and believe in your heart that Elohim raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Genesis 21:22, treaty with Abimelech. Okay. To swear, do not deal falsely with me. So Abimelech and Abraham, they made 7 ewe lambs. As a witness for me, I dug this well. So he gave him 7 ewe lambs, I suppose. That place is called Beersheba because there both of them swore an oath. They made a covenant at Beersheba. Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, rose up and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba and called there on the name of Jehovah, the everlasting Elohim. And Abraham sojourned many days in the land of the Philistines. I want you to look up the word swear. Then I want you to look up the word 7, as in the 7 lambs. Swear is a jur, shaba, to swear, to take an oath. Did you take note of what you just read? It can mean an oath, or it can mean a curse. Oh, sworn, to swear, to curse, to cause to take an oath. Both at the same time. Part of speech, verb, a related word by, swear, literally to 7 oneself. A common practice was to make 7 declarations when making an oath. This declaration can be making the oath 7 times or doing 7 things to show the sincerity of the oath. Shaba. Shaba is a primitive root, properly to be complete, but used only as a denominative form. To 7 oneself, that is to swear. So 7 and to 7 oneself and to swear are very close. Here is the word for 7, Sheba. Sheba. A primitive cardinal number, 7, 7 times. a week, by extension, an indefinite number. Now you should understand what took place at Beersheba, and how it came to be known by that name. Beer is the Hebrew word for well, and Sheba is the Hebrew word for 70. That's interesting. I wonder, beer, beer means well. Okay. These 7 new lambs you will take from my hand, that this may be witness for me that I dug this well. Okay. Right. After the Exodus, Israel meandered in the wilderness of Midian until they arrive at Jabal al-Laus, and just before Shavuot. That is Pentecost, when Jehovah came down in a cloud. And let us just read it. Exodus 19, verse 1. So yeah, it says there about the covenant, right? If you keep my voice or obey my voice, will be treasured. Right here we have the marriage proposal from Jehovah to Israel. So that's again Exodus 19:1. And now we read where Israel accepts the proposal from Jehovah, and said to continuing on. It doesn't say the verse, but so the following 3 pictures are from Jabal al-Laus, and show the warning that those who trespassed would be shot. Okay. So there's a picture of 2 men with a bow and arrow, and that you will be shot, pretty much. Now there's 4 men. 3 or 4 men doing the same thing. In Exodus 20, we read about the covenant that Jehovah spoke to the people, and how all the people agreed to obey. And we read of this a number of times. In chapter 24, we read how the people again agreed with the covenant twice, and there were even 70 elders who saw Jehovah and ate with him. Okay, so that's, you can read about that more in chapter 24. We learn more about this in Deuteronomy 5:27-29. Go near and hear all that Jehovah our Elohim will say. Okay. All right, I'm not going to read the whole thing. In Deuteronomy 27, we read how this agreement resulted in the marriage contract between Jehovah and Israel, 27:17. After Joshua crossed the Jordan, he built an altar today. Today known as Joshua's altar, and I've taken groups to this altar and prayed there a number of times. Joshua stated the following here. It's Joshua 8:30, and let me see. We also read how Joshua and Israel agreed to obey Jehovah again at Shechem near the end of Joshua's life. That's Joshua 24, verse 1. So they agreed. They made an agreement, a covenant. Well, we can also read in Nehemiah how the people, after the captivity of that time, renewed their vows to obey Jehovah. So that's Nehemiah 10, verse 28. And they did that. They made a covenant, renewed it. Or their vows, renewed their vows. All the people entered into the curse of the law if they disobeyed, and the blessings if they obeyed. Did you see this? Let me see. I think it's Nehemiah still. When you agree to follow Jehovah, when you confess and wish to return to the law and begin to obey, you're also agreeing to suffer the curses if you do not obey. Let us read the blessings we're going to get when we obey Jehovah. That's Leviticus 26:1. And then again, then right after this are the curses that will come our way if we do not obey. These are the very handbook we have been warning you about since 2005, and we have shown you each of these curses one by one as they manifest on the nightly news and remain there for weeks, months, and even years. Here are the curses, and I do hope you read them. The first curse is terrorism, Leviticus 26:14, and the second curse is extreme weather. The third curse is pestilence. The fourth curse is the sword, famine, and pestilence, the very COVID-19 we are all now enduring around the world. The fifth curse is captivity. We can also read of the blessing and the curses in Deuteronomy. Here are the blessings if we obey. In Deuteronomy 28, verse 1. And then it says here are the curses for when we do not obey. That's Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15. I just wanted to point out that, I've seen this trend. I usually relate it to Luke 21 and Matthew 24, but you know what? This is, in fact, you can relate it to the blessings and the cursings, and more so the cursings, and just how this all lines up. Everything we're going through and will be going through in the future relates to this. Just pause for a few minutes and let all of that sink in. The blessings for obeying and the curses for when we do not obey. This is what we agreed to at Mount Sinai. And everyone who wants to follow Jehovah and be protected by him and be a part of his kingdom also agrees to both the blessing and the curses if you do not obey. People in some nations are praying for Jehovah to take away the pestilence. They are confessing in public their prayers. Actually, I did do that initially, and then I realized I can't stop Jehovah's will. So what I did was not to pray for it to be taken away, but I just prayed, let your will be done, and I pray for the righteous in the nations, because I can't pray against what he already is doing if his plan is to let it, humble people. So let me see. They're confessing in public their prayers. None of them are repenting. They are not returning to the Torah. They abandoned before the curses came. They are not returning to the Torah. They abandoned. Okay. No, they just want the pain to go away. They are not yet obeying. Yeah, I agree. Each Sabbath, every 7 days, we renew our oath. We are severing ourselves to keep the covenant. Each feast of unleavened bread, we count out the 7 days of unleavened bread, and we renew our oath, our severing of ourselves to keep the covenant. Each year, when counting out the 7 weeks, or the 7 Sabbaths to Shavuot or Pentecost, every day as we count the Omer, we renew our oath, our severing of ourselves to keep the covenant. Each year, as we count out the 7 months, we renew our oath, our severing of ourselves to keep the covenant. The holy days come in at the 1st and the 7th month. Each holy day, all 7 holy days, we renew our oath, our severing of ourselves to keep the covenant. 1st day of unleavened bread, 7th day of unleavened bread, Shavuot, Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, 1st day and last day of Sukkot, actually the 8th day of the feast. These are the feasts of Jehovah found in Leviticus 23, and I just said them. Thanks to Yohanan Meyer Schlauk, I hope I pronounced that right, for drawing this up properly. Most people do not ever include the 8th day feast in this picture of the menorah. Okay, 1st day, 7th day, Shavuot, trumpets, atonement, tabernacles, the 8th day of 7 feasts. Oh, Passover is the Passover, and okay, maybe that's the one that's kind of... All right. Each Sukkot, as we dwell in temporary shelters for 7 days, we renew our oath, our sevening of ourselves to keep the covenant. Each Shemitah year, as we count out the 7 years from one sabbatical year until the next, we renew our oath, our sevening of ourselves to keep the covenant. Each time we count out the 7 Shemitah to arrive at the 50th year Jubilee, we renew our oath to Jehovah, our sevening to Jehovah to be His and to be a part of His kingdom. Each of these sevening processes increases us with knowledge and understanding and wisdom on how to know Jehovah. And what is the one thing He says to the 5 foolish virgins? He says to them, I never knew you. Yeah, that's what He says. Okay. Now you should be able to know and understand what is being told to us in Daniel 9:24-27. 70 weeks are decreed. Shabim Shabua is how it is being translated, but in the original Hebrew the words are Shabim Shabim. Although the words are the same in the Stones edition and in all Hebrew editions, they are all translated as 70 Shabua. This is Strong 7657 and 7620. So 70 multiple of 70, 73 score and 10. Remember from the start we looked at the word 7651, which means 7 and to oath oneself. Sheba. Sheba. This word Sheba for 7 comes from the word for oath or curse. When we seven ourselves, we complete ourselves. If you do not keep each of the holy days, how will you ever be able to complete yourself? When the 5 foolish virgins go out to get more oil, to get more Holy Spirit, how can they do that unless they have the time to keep the holy days and the holy years? They do not have the time, and they are not known by Jehovah. I want you to notice the word Saba, which is spelled the exact same way as Sheba. Saba is a primitive root to be sated, satisfied, or surfeited. When we are obedient to Jehovah and keep the covenant, we will be filled, satiated, and have enough. And now let us look at the word 7620, which is what the second Shibim is being translated as. Shabua. Okay. It is a participle of H7650, which means 7. A week, or 7, a week specifically of years. This same word, 7620, Shabua, is used in the following verses. And perform the festival of Shavuot for yourself. The word for Shavuot is 7620, the Feast of Weeks. Leviticus 12:5, it uses that as well. Numbers 28:26 uses that as well. And here again here, the word for Shavuot is the Feast of Weeks. Deuteronomy 16:9-10 says the word there. The same word for weeks in all 3 places, but in the third usage, it is the Feast of Weeks that is being specified. It is also interesting to note the 70 weeks of Daniel 9 is very similar to the 7s here. Shavuot, okay. Deuteronomy 16:16. It says that as well. Shavuot is the word 7620 for weeks. 2 Chronicles 8:13. The word for Shavuot is the same word, 7620. Let me look at that word one more time and just see 7620. Okay. Let me just double check. I feel like maybe I missed some. I have to look it up. 7620. Yeah, Strong's. So that's the word for Shabua. Shabua. The words are the same. Multiples of 7. Okay. So Exodus 34:22. The word for Shabuot is Feast of Weeks. Okay. Leviticus 12:5. Numbers 20:26 uses it. I feel like it went back a little bit. Okay. Deuteronomy 16:16. 2 Chronicles 8:13. So the word Shavuot is the same word, 7620. Daniel 9:24-27. The word Shavuot is used 6 times in these verses. I mean that's actually not very obvious to most people, but because when you do your research and you can see the root of the word, you dig deeper, it gives you uh, understanding of what Daniel was prophesying. Daniel 10 verses 2-3. He was mourning 3 weeks of days, so it's using the same word. Out of 13 usages for this word, 10 of them are referring to the word Shavuot. We, Israel, have had 70 Shabua, 70 feasts of weeks. Let me just make sure it's still running. Okay. Right. I didn't realize I was not in the frame, but not a big deal. Okay. 70 feasts of weeks, 70 times 49, which is 3,430 years, to 7 ourselves and keep the oath we said we would keep at Mount Sinai in our marriage agreement, and now in the 70th Jubilee cycle, the 70th week of Daniel 9, because we have not kept our oath. We have not severed ourselves as a nation. We, the anointed people of Jehovah, will be cut off and be as if we never were. We are now reaping those curses that we also agreed to if we did not obey Jehovah. But even in this great time of sorrow, Jehovah holds out a branch of hope. He said as much after each of the curses we read today in Leviticus 26:40. It says it there, and then Deuteronomy 30, verse 1. Doesn't say up to what verse, but in Deuteronomy 30, Daniel prays for mercy after he realizes the 70 years of captivity are now over. Daniel 9, pretty much Daniel 9. Yeah. Okay, that's the end of the newsletter. So I'll read, you know what, I'm going to read. It says that he holds out a branch of, let me look at Leviticus 26:40 and look at the end of that. See what the end of it says, like where it says he is hopeful, because that is important to remember. So this ends from 40. It says Mount Sinai at the last part. So 40 to the end. Okay, and they shall confess their sins and the sins of their fathers, that they have transgressed and neglected me. And that they have walked perversely before me. So it says neglected me, not just trespassed. I walked with them with a perverse mind, and I will destroy them in the land of their enemies. A perverse mind is hard to translate that. It needs that requires research and insight and understanding. Then shall their uncircumcised heart be ashamed, and then shall they acquiesce in the punishment of their sins. And I'll remember the covenant of Yaakov, and the covenant of Yitzhak, and the covenant of Abraham will I remember. And I'll remember the land, and the land shall be left of them, and the land shall enjoy her Sabbaths when it is deserted through them. And they shall accept the punishment of their iniquities, because they neglected my judgments, and in their soul loathed my ordinances. Actually, if you really think about it, I feel like the land is getting a rest for this quarantine period. Verse 44, and yet not even thus, while they were in the land of their enemies, did I overlook them, nor did I loathe them so as to consume them, to break my covenant made with them, for I am Jehovah their Elohim. And I will remember their former covenant which I brought them out, or when I brought them out of the land of Mizraim, out of the house of bondage, before the nation, to be their Elohim. I am Jehovah. These are my judgments and my ordinances, and the Torah which Jehovah gave between himself and the children of Israel in the Mount Sinai by the hand of Moshe. Okay, so there's only one minor difference there, which was neglected, and I think that's the big one that I noticed. Neglected me, yeah. Okay, I'll read the next one now. Second last one, it's Deuteronomy 30, verse 1, and it looks like it ends at to give them. Deuteronomy 30, verse 1, to give them. And because I felt like it did go a little bit quick, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure I don't miss anything that's hopeful. It says it ends in a hopeful note. So 30, verse 1, and it ends in choose life. Okay, choose life one. You shall return. Okay. You shall call to mind among all the nations wherein Jehovah has scattered you. Okay. You shall return to Jehovah your Elohim. You shall listen to his voice. With all your heart, all your soul. I'm just going to read the differences here. Then Jehovah shall heal your iniquities, and shall pity you, and shall again gather you out from all the nations, among which Jehovah has scattered you. So it says he will heal our iniquities. That's different. In the Septuagint it says that. It doesn't say that in the Masoretic. If your dispersion be from one end of heaven to the other, then will Jehovah your Elohim gather you, and there will Jehovah your Elohim take you. Okay, a lot of people ask about how are we going to be gathered at the end of the time, at the end of the age, if we're all over the planet. It says right here, Jehovah will gather us, and he will take you from where you are. So either the angels will physically pick us up, or spiritually, or however it's going to be done. Don't worry about it. He'll take care of it. So that really is not something we should worry about. So if you worry about that, stop. And me too, I should stop worrying about that as well. I mean, you can build a bunker, you can build something in the sky, but he'll find you. And he'll take you and bring you to where he has designated us to be. Jehovah shall bring you in from there to the land which your fathers have inherited. You shall inherit it, he shall do to you good. Okay. I'm just going to read the differences here. Okay, there's a difference already. Jehovah shall purge your heart and the heart of your seed, to love Jehovah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, that you may live. So it says in the Masoretic, circumcise your heart. I don't have a problem with that, but it just says purge your heart. So that's a difference there. Jehovah your Elohim will put these curses upon your enemies and upon those that hate you. Okay, it's similar. Okay, I'm going to keep going until I see a difference. Jehovah shall bless you in every work. Okay, there's a difference. Jehovah your Elohim shall bless you in every work of your hands. That's 9. So he'll bless every work of your hands. Not just make you plenteous, but bless it. And the offspring of your body, the offspring of your cattle, it's pretty much similar there. If you will hearken to the voice of Jehovah your Elohim, okay. Turn to Jehovah with all your heart, all your soul, right? For this commandment which I give you this day is not grievous, nor is it far from you. Yeah, actually, you know what? It says here in the Masoretic, it is not hidden. In the Septuagint says it is not grievous, because a lot of people say the law is a burden, it's grievous. So you know what? It isn't hidden. It's actually very obvious. The Torah, it's the first 5 books of Moses. It's not non-canonized. It is canonized in every, as far as I can tell, it hasn't been removed. And although it's been adjusted somewhat, but for the most part, it still stands. And it's been preserved. It is not in heaven above, as if there were one saying, who shall go up for us into heaven, and shall take it for us, and we will hear and do it. Neither is it beyond the sea, saying, who will go over for us to the other side of the sea and take it for us and make it audible to us, and we will do it. The word is very near to you, in your mouth, in your heart, and in your hands to do it. Behold, I have set before you this day life and death, good and evil. If you will listen, if you hearken to the commands of Jehovah, your Elohim, which I command you this day, to love Jehovah your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to keep his ordinances and his judgments, then you shall live, and shall be many in number. And Jehovah your Elohim shall bless you in all the land into which you go to inherit it. But if your heart change, and you will not listen, hearken, then you shall go astray, and worship other Elohim, and serve them. I declare to you this day, that you shall utterly perish, and you shall by no means live long upon the land, into which you go over Jordan to inherit it. I call both heaven and earth to witness this day against you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Choose thou life, and your seed may live, or that you and your seed may live. To love Jehovah your Elohim, to listen to his voice, to hearken to his voice, and cleave to him, for this is your life. And the length of your days, that you should dwell upon the land, which Jehovah swore to your fathers, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, to give to them. Wow, that's a big difference. That is a big difference. Okay, the Masoretic, it says, choose life that you and your seed may live, that you may love, Jehovah, you may obey his voice, you may cleave to him, for he is your life and the length of your days. I'm not saying that's false, but I'm only saying the Septuagint says this. Your seed may live, and it has a semicolon. It says to love, basically meaning this is what it means to live. To love Elohim, to love Jehovah your Elohim, to hearken to his voice, to cleave to him, this is your life. I mean, yes, he is our life, but it's saying specifically this is your life. To love him, to listen to him, not just listen, but to do. So to love him, to be obedient, and to cleave to him. That's that's a good study to do. What does it mean to cleave to him? Because yeah, it's one thing to love him, but that's different than listening and obeying. And listening, obeying, and loving him are different than cleaving to him. Kind of like what's her name, Ruth to Naomi. Like you're cleaving for your life. Like this is it. You're clenching it. You will not let go. It's like guarding it in a way, maybe like you're guarding it. Or for this is your life. Remember, Solomon said, "This is the whole of man: fear Elohim and keep his commandments." That's the whole of man. That's the whole duty of man. And this is your life: to love Jehovah, and to love him means to keep his commandments, right? And to listen to his voice, to be obedient, and to cleave to him. This is his words. That's amazing. I just have to. I'm going to write that down too, because that's a big difference. It's not a minor difference. It says Deuteronomy 30, because I'm not trying to contradict the scriptures. I'm just reading what it says. It's not my opinion. I'm sure there are a lot of verses that say we only live because of him. So I'm not trying. We all live because all things live through him and by him. He created us all. That's a fact. But when it comes to this verse specifically, it says that to love Jehovah, to listen or hearken his voice. I'm glad I read this last part here, because I didn't think it would be different, but it is. And cleave to him. Cleave to him. For this is your life. Some people say, my life, my reason of being, the reason that I live, my purpose here is to do X and Y and Z. Jehovah says it in Deuteronomy 30:20. This is your life. This is your life, that you love me, Jehovah your Elohim, you love me, which means keep my commandments, to listen to his voice, to do what he says, listen and do, and to cleave to him. Boy, that is really deep. Okay, the last one here is Daniel 9 to the end, which says by your name. Your city and people are called by your name, okay? So that is, where is that? That's 19, okay. Just look at the differences, just really quick, see if there's something hopeful as well. Diligently by prayer, supplication, okay. We have transgressed, we have done wickedly, we have departed and turned aside from commandments. Okay. To you, Jehovah, belongs righteousness, but to us confusion of face, as at this day. It's verse 7, to the men of Judah, wherever you have scattered them for the sin which they committed. Okay, that's pretty equal. And you, O Jehovah, is our righteousness, and to us belong confusion of faced, and to our kings, and to our princes, and to our fathers, for as much as we have sinned. To you, Jehovah, belong compassions and forgivenesses, whereas we have departed from you. It says rebelled in Masoretic. Neither have we hearkened to the voice of Jehovah, to walk in his laws, his Torah, which he set before us by the hands of his servants. Okay. Moreover, all Israel have transgressed your Torah and have refused to hearken to your voice. So the curse has come upon us. And the oath that is written in the law, in the Torah of Moshe, the servant of Elohim, because we have sinned against him. And he has confirmed his words, which he spoke against us, against our judges, bringing upon us great evils, such as have not happened under the whole heaven, according to what has happened in Jerusalem. As it is written in the law of Moshe, all these evils have come upon us. Yet we have not besought Jehovah, our Elohim, that we might turn away from our iniquities and have understanding in all your truth. Okay, in all your truth, there's a difference there. Jehovah also has watched and besought and brought the evils upon us. For Jehovah Elohim is righteous in all his work which he has executed, but we have not hearkened to his voice. And now, O Jehovah Elohim, who brought your people out of the land of Mizraim with a mighty hand, and made to yourself a name, as at this day, we have sinned, we have transgressed. Okay, that's a difference. It says we. What's going on with my audio? Okay, it's Daniel 9. I'm going to write here. I find Daniel 9, let's put it towards the end there. Daniel 9. So it says that in verse, I think it's 15. Yeah. It says, you've made to yourself a name. You've made to yourself a name. And we were talking about that today. We heard that on the Zoom meeting, that his name is important. It's not only his name, but it's his reputation. You know, you've made for yourself a name. Yes, his name is Jehovah, but what is his reputation? He's made his reputation great. And, we can turn that name, that reputation, to nothing by our bad behavior, by us not representing him in the right way, when our actions might match up with our beliefs, with the words of Elohim. So this is, it says renown. You've gotten your renown, but I like how it says in Septuagint, you've made to yourself a name. We have sinned, we have transgressed. Okay, 3 verses or 4. O Jehovah, your mercy is over all. Yikes, okay, that's a difference. In the Masoretic, it says, O Jehovah, according to all your righteousness, I beseech you, let your anger and your fury be turned away from your city Jerusalem, your holy mountain, because of our sins. Okay. And the Septuagint says, O Jehovah, your mercy is over all. I pray you, your wrath turn away, and your anger from your city Jerusalem, even your holy mountain. We have sinned because of our iniquities, so it's just a difference about mercy instead of your righteousness. And now, O Jehovah, our Elohim, hearken to the prayer of your servant and his supplications, and cause your face to shine on your desolate sanctuary for your own sake, O Jehovah. Incline your ear, O my Elohim, and hear. Open your eyes and behold our desolation, and that of your city on which your name is called. For we do not bring our pitiful case before you on the ground of our righteousness, but on the ground of your manifold compassions, O Jehovah. So the difference there is in the Masoretic it says supplications, and the Septuagint says our pitiful case. So it's not just supplications, it's kind of, it sounds a little more humble. It's our pitiful case. Anyway, 19 is the last verse. Hearken, O Jehovah, be propitious. O Jehovah, attend. O Jehovah, delay not. O my Elohim, for your own sake. For your name is called upon your city and upon your people. So that's the end of that. Let me look at the comment here. It says from the trumpet.com, the German people are looking to a successor. So yeah, they're looking at two possible ones. One named Friedrich Merz, or Friedrich, I'm not sure you pronounce that. And then another one named Marcus Soder. So history teaches us that widespread fear causes people to gravitate towards strong leaders. The situation is being compared to World War II, when strongman Adolf Hitler caused global fear. Like the virus, Hitler captured the world's attention, hindered the global economy, and destroyed people's lives. The Bible reveals that an end-time leader will rise in Europe. This strongman will create far greater havoc and fear than Hitler and all past crises combined. Various biblical authors have written about this man. Their prophecies were recorded hundreds of years apart, but they all contain the same message. This man's impact will be so devastating that only the second coming of Yahushua HaMashiach can provide a way out of the suffering. You can read these prophecies in Daniel 8, Matthew 24, and Revelation 17. These millennia-old prophecies are now racing toward fulfillment. And the recent coronavirus crisis is playing a huge role in it. The fear over coronavirus is leading to consequences unmatched in recent history. So I think that's all for the comments. I was able to find it. Okay. Okay, Victoria, how I love Jehovah. Show the word truth, the double-edged sword. Okay, so that's the end of the newsletter. I'm going to stop the feed. Or the feed. Is it a feed? Live stream. And I will post a video. Maybe not today, probably tomorrow. I thought I would have energy, but it's been a long day. And again, that picture is supposed to represent not a woman in travail, but that prophecy where it says, can men give birth? Then why do I see men looking like they're in birth pangs, giving birth in labor? So I looked up a picture, birth pangs. Women in travail are actually birth pangs. and there were pictures of men. What is this about? But maybe it fulfills prophecy. I really don't know, but maybe not. But I found it interesting, and I was looking for a picture that would be suitable for this topic, a woman in travail, and I found that the pictures were a little just, I don't know, kind of, I didn't want to put them. I didn't think they were appropriate. So I thought this was kind of funny, and even the men with their expressions, they were in pain, and we just weren't built for that kind of pain. Jehovah created men for specific reasons, and women for specific reasons and purposes, and when we're apart, we see that life presents a different set of challenges. But then when men and women, they unite, specifically in a marriage union, they complement each other, and they can handle life's challenges as a team, and they can make up for each other's deficiencies and weaknesses. So anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's the end. And I look forward to the next newsletter to be read. That'll be, I think, next Shabbat, most likely, depending on what happens on Friday. And the next video I will do will be tomorrow, most likely, on the Assumption of Moses, or the Testimony of Moses. So I did complete reading that. It's a very interesting book. It is actually originally part of the canon, and then it was decanonized or removed from the canon. So I look forward to that. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Actually, no, it's not Shabbat, but Shalom, Shavua Tov, and have a good night. Jehovah bless you. May he set his angels over you at this time of calamity, these perilous times, and may he make your way prosperous. Okay, thank you. An hour and 48. Okay, didn't think I'd go that long.